let's talk about reparations, because, come on, this is just on the cards.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to pay reparations. The debate is over. There's no debate to be had. Reparations are what California is doing, probably. They haven't actually decided yet. But the thing is, there's so much emotion that they're not going to put all this effort in and not do reparations. They've committed. And so, as you discovered with Calvin Robinson, debate is over. Debate is dead.
Yep.
There's nothing to debate. This was really good. If you want to go supporters, go to lotus.com, sign up, watch Calvin versus the NPCs, because literally that's what's happening in California. The NPCs have all been programmed. Diversity is our strength. Black Lives Matter. Reparations now. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk about the reparations then. So in 2020, California, the California Reparations Task Force, it's a task force, this is urgent, right? This is like, the Russians are invading Ukraine, we need a task force.
They've got their own patches.
They probably do.
Oh God, what's the patch?
I tried to think. It's going to be a race
Beating up a white guy or something.
It's a non-regulatory state agency in California established by the California Assembly Bill 3121 in 2020, so Gavin Newsom signed this in, to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, especially those who are the descendants of persons enslaved in the United States.
What do you mean? Hang on. What do you mean especially? Don't you mean only?
You would think. But
no.
It's for blacks, Callum.
Even slavers.
I am a fresh immigrant from Nigeria.
And I deserve a refund.
The task force is designed to recommend ways to educate.
You took my merchandise from me.
Well, I mean, there is good argument from the Nigerians and the Ghanaians that actually you ruined our economies.
What? The slaves?
The British.
Well, no. Oh, I'm going to go a level further here.
Oh, okay.
Right, hang on. No, the slaves ruins the Nigerians' economy. Because the Nigerians went out and got reliant on the slave trade, so technically these guys in America, who are the descendants, owe the Nigerians money.
Carrying on, the task force is designed to recommend...
That's what's going to happen.
We'll see. The task force is designed to recommend ways to educate the California public of the task force findings and proposed remedies. 5 members have been appointed by the governor, 2 members are appointed by the president pro tempore of the Senate, and 2 members by the speaker of the assembly. The members are, I'm just going to give their racial demographics, because Wikipedia does. 8 of them are African American, and the 9th is Japanese American.
Okay.
Possibly something to do with concentration camps in World War II.
I kind of feel like you've got those guys, and then you've got the Japanese guy sat there, who's like, my dad was in a concentration camp, how about you? And you're like, well, I don't know exactly. But
I did a 23andMe, and it turns out I'm descended directly from George Washington.
And then there's one guy on the table who's just like, well, I'm Jewish and African-American, so...
But the point is, why appoint judges in their own cause? It's like, okay, are these people invested in the subject? Can they be relied on to be impartial? It's nothing about impartiality, obviously. California is the first state to establish a body to study the long history of terror and oppression against African Americans and recommend reparations. Germany made payments to Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing.
That's not the same.
That's because it was within living memory. And those people...
were alive.
Holocaust survivor.
Or not, their family would have their estate given to them.
Yep.
Or, any of the things that make a reparation possible.
A person who has had something bad done to them is being having it restored after the fact. The United States made payments to Americans who were interned during World War II for being Japanese.
Again, an identifiable victim who was 100%
a
the
person
victim.
With the event.
And a cash amount we can give to them in compensation to them.
For the things that were taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The task force met in 2021. They received testimony about segregation, redlining, voter district... What? Redlining, voter restrictions, and other forms of discrimination in 2022. I thought it was slavery. What are you talking about? I mean,
we're not even doing slavery.
No. Descendants of persons enslaved, and suddenly we're on redlining, are we?
Descendants of those who were victims of redlining.
And other forms of discrimination. But they were discussing whether it was appropriate to pay all African Americans in California or only those whose ancestors were enslaved.
Why is that a debate? I don't...
Great question!
I mean, even in the Calvin Robinson debate, they at least agreed that it should be those who were victims of slavery, their descendants, not random guy from Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah.
What I want to hear the arguments, frankly.
Well, I would love to as well.
Is it just like a huge like lobby group of Nigerians who are just wanting money?
I mean, that would be good thinking, big brain thinking on the Nigerians' part. But the report is expected next year, so we'll be able to read the full report next year, which I am looking forward to. I'm going to go through this. This is going to be great fun.
Attendees, 15 Nigerian princes.
The committee was presented with calculations for certain scenarios that include figures amounting to hundreds of thousands of dollars in reparations for each California resident who can prove they are a descendant of an enslaved person. So what I'm saying is, if you're black, you may want to move to California for at least a year, because they're going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars for being black.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I'd take it. If I thought, I mean, I literally am descended from slaves, actually, so I thought, if I thought that the Californians would give me money.
So if the Argentinians are also watching.
So, let's talk about the history of slavery in California.
Is there?
No.
Wait.
California was the place where slaves went to be freed.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like after the Mexican-American War...
Yeah, they did.
How long had California even been in there before the Civil War?
Not very much. California was about, 25 years old?
And miles away?
It was in 1849, the first California Constitution Convention was held, in which they did not include slavery in the Constitution. And many freed and enslaved people of African ancestry were part of the California Gold Rush, and many were able to buy their freedom with the gold that they found. So California is where slaves went to find their liberty. And so the Californians now are like, well, we need reparations.
For what?
For not being a slave state and for helping liberate thousands of slaves.
Well, I mean, it was a mistake, so... That's
Disavow.
a joke. That's a joke.
I mean, from the Democrats' point of view, I guess it was. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it is the Democrats in
literally,
charge
it's the
now.
Democrats in charge, and they're like, well...
Oh, God, actually, no, that works now. Like, my joke makes sense. You got the Dems back in charge, you're like, well, we need to make up for grievances. They just haven't told you which grievances.
Yeah, so it's just really weird how, like, again, one of the last places in the United States that only just came into existence, decades before the end of slavery entirely in the United States, in which Northerners were the ones that dominated the assembly. So, like, Northern immigrants were like, no, we're not having slavery. And the Southerners were like, oh. The Southern Democrats literally were like, darn. Like that's literally how it went, right?
You should make a history documentary.
I should, but and now the Californians are like, right, we need to lash ourselves, lads. We need to pay for that slavery that we didn't have. But anyway, the New York Times is on it, of course. Of course, the New York Times is on it.
Oh,
right?
for God's sake. Are they taking this seriously?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is very serious, right? In the 2 years since nationwide social justice protests followed the murder of George Floyd, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Noted
I forgot about
slave
him.
George Floyd.
I had actually completely forgotten about him.
California has undertaken the nation's most sweeping effort yet to explore some of the concrete restitution to black citizens to address enduring economic effects of slavery and racism. What enduring economic effects of slavery does California possibly have?
Death of George Floyd in California.
That wasn't in California.
Well, Carl Rittenhouse shot him in California.
It was in Minnesota.
It was no. I mean, just make up anything at this point. Why not? I mean, if you're going to try and argue that every random black guy, even if he has no connection to the history of slavery, he might have even been a slave and deserves money, hundreds of thousands of dollars as well.
Yeah, so this 9-member reparations task force spent months travelling across California to learn about the generational effects of racist policies. I thought we were talking about slavery. Okay, the group, formed by legislation from Newsom, is scheduled to report next year, which will be exciting. The task force has identified 5 areas. You thought one, being a slave, right? That was the thing you were talking about. No. Yeah. Housing discrimination, mass incarceration, unjust property seizures, devaluation of black businesses, and healthcare.
What? Okay, because like slavery, okay. Discrimination in housing, that happened.
I mean, I guess unjust property seizure could be characterized as slavery.
I suppose.
Mass incarceration.
Being in jail for crime. Sorry about that.
Devaluation of black businesses? As in, I was going to sell my business, but the guy wasn't prepared to give me the price I wanted. What?
Well, it's because I was black.
Obviously, but...
Even though he was black too, but
now I need reparations for that? Healthcare? I don't know.
I mean, they're not even trying.
So, as an example, from 1933 to 1977, when it comes to housing discrimination, the task force estimates compensation of around $569 billion. We're way off the reservation when it comes to slavery, though. This is not about slavery in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, why not just throw in George Floyd? I mean,
Well, they did.
for the grief caused by George Floyd's death to all black Americans.
Why not?
You know, that's the sixth area.
Why not indeed? Anyway, they're taking suggestions, right? So the task force must determine when each harm began and ended. Well, I would suggest the harm for slavery ended around 1870.
No. I think about 4022 is what it ends.
So, for example, the group could choose to limit cash compensation to people incarcerated between 1970, when more people started being imprisoned for drug-related crimes, to the present. Or they could choose to compensate everyone who ever lived in an over-policed black neighborhood, even if they were not themselves arrested. Live in a black neighborhood, you're suffering. Here's $200,000.
I think my joke might have been real.
It's preposterous.
Like, you've got these Dixiecrats turning up being like, I'm so sorry you live in a black neighborhood. Here's a bunch of money. it's a real crime, the things that are done to you.
This is, but literally at this point, they're just like, yeah, oh God, he's black. Quick, give him some money. I'm so sorry. Like, this is where they're at.
You know those scenes out of movies where you get a coffee and like you open it up and then someone just throws some change in it? You're just like, asshole.
Earlier this year, the committee made the controversial decision to limit reparations to descendants of black people in the United States.
Why limit it there? Why not all black people ever?
I moved to the United States in 1990 from Uganda. Where are my reparations? It's like, sorry, it's only for the black people in the United States. Well, that's not controversial. That's common sense. There's no controversy there, right? So either as free or enslaved people, right? Max Fennell, a 35-year-old coffee company owner, said every person should get $350,000 in compensation, not $223, to close the racial wealth gap, and black-owned businesses should receive $250,000, which would help them flourish.
Remember those?
I mean, I guess it would.
You remember those COVID checks?
Yeah.
Where it was, everyone was like, maybe setting the precedent where the government just gives people money, just straight up.
Yep.
Is a bad idea.
Yep.
Real bad idea for the mental states of how people think about politics. No, just give us $350,000 each.
Well, I want to know why Max is such a racist who's in favour of slavery. 350,000, that's not enough.
Yeah.
500,000. No, what about a million?
I mean,
What
how
about
much?
billions?
Hang on. 'Cause-
Why have you chosen 350,000, Max?
Well, those ladies who run George Floyd's Theft Incorporated, they got like 80 billion each. Well, 80 million, sorry. In which case, that's the average standard for a black person.
They did say that they had done this for purposes of restoration and restorative justice.
George
didn't they?
Floyd's soul was holding open that portal. Remember that?
But it's a debt that we're owed. We worked for free. Royal we there. We worked for free. What, in your coffee company? No, I worked on the plant. No, you didn't. You didn't do anything. But anyway, so the question is, okay, well, who's going to get this?
I've been
right?
picking coffee all my life. It's like, no, you haven't.
So who's going to get this? Because it turns out that a lot of whites are actually not white. You can get to the next one, John. Because they were like, well, if we test your DNA, turns out America is a very mixed race country, obviously. And so those people with white skin, much like myself, in fact, can DNA test and find out actually you've got black, therefore slave ancestry in your genetics. So am I not?
So you've got a little while just to re-register your house in California.
I could, yeah, exactly. I could buy a cheapo slum in California, register as someone and live there, pay some tax for a few months, get $350,000.
If anyone's looking for a roommate on the books.
Yeah. All I'm saying is I think I might need, don't I need like one patron or something like that? I need someone to recommend me.
I think if you like rent a room from someone,
Right.
for like $1 a month,
I mean, they're not
just
exactly,
on paper.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and so they were crowing about this. They're like, ha ha ha! You think you're white, but actually you're black. Ha ha! Got you. And it's like,
That's not a bad thing, is it?
yeah, exactly. Who cares?
Why
right?
are you laughing?
Well, that's what this article is. They consider themselves white, but no, you're not.
What's going on in the Washington Post?
Yeah, exactly. This is not the first time, is it? But then they also are like, aha, we've also got the white supremacists who are also not white. You give the next one, John?
Hang on.
Sorry, go back.
Sorry, go back. Just see, like, story number 3, racist message found at the Super Bowl. Anyway, haha, you're black.
Let's go to the next one. If you scroll down just so you see the headline, right? Again, well, their DNA. So, right. Okay, California. So now you're going to DNA test people, find they've got a lineage to slavery, and all of these white supremacists, you're like, yeah, here's your $350,000, lads.
I'm sure that's got to be a skit. Like every member of the clan
I'm sure
is
Dave
one...
Chappelle has already made that.
Yeah, like every member of the clan is like 1/16 black or something. Then they all get sent a check. sorry for slavery.
Anyway, moving on. Market Watch are like, why is there a wealth gap? Why? I can't. I have no idea. Market Watch. This reparations tally could come up to $475,000 per person through their estimates.
Jesus Christ. I mean, is the US dollar going to be worth anything?
No,
by the end of this?
It's not worth anything now. But the point is, by the end of this, you're right, it will be worth nothing.
Christ. Hang on.
More people at the task force were like, you know what, 350k isn't enough. Go to the next one. Speaking at the meeting of the task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans at Oakland City Hall, Dion Jenkins argued that every black Californian should receive a payment of around $800,000.
So,
which is pulling these numbers out of the air. Why only $800,000? Why not $1 million? Why not $1 million, eh?
I mean, we're in billions and billions and billions at this point.
Monopoly money territory. Because this reflects average home prices in the state. Either they're going to comply or it's going to be serious backlash, said Jenkins. Oh, give us $800,000 or there'll be serious backlash. Yeah, nice state you had here. This sounds very much like a shakedown, doesn't it?
I mean, we're up to $500 billion now. Just to let you know.
California, we never had something. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a backlash.
Well, you know, California's finances are doing so good. I'm sure they've got this money sitting around. It's not like they're on a huge negative or anything every single year. Verging on bankruptcy.
But yeah, so he and other activists were complaining that $223,000 is just not enough. What they want is money for, quote, defense, money, land grants, 4 elements of every society, every nation, a defensive structure, economy, land, and having access to that economy. Right?
Well, you have all that.
Well, no, because that's American. What they appear to want is to set up some sort of Liberia in California.
Well, we do have that. It's called Liberia.
Yes, but they want it in California.
Okay.
Where they have defense, as in their own armed forces.
So you want to set up a black nation, like a reservation, in California, and it's got its own defense policy, money policy, land grants. Yeah, I think you might be a lunatic.
The debate continued on Thursday when the Reverend Tony Pierce of the Black Wall Street Project shouted at the podium that $230,000 is not enough. Well, I mean, you probably only afford 1 or 2 tanks with $230,000.
These people would take $100. If you stood there and they think, oh, how about $100? And just they'll take it and walk out.
Well, they think they're going to get 800,000. So
they're just trying to grift.
If this isn't obviously a grift, then nothing is. And they've thought about this, right? The reparation should be tax-free. So the IRS won't come after us. And I'm pleading and I'm asking that when we make the decision of lineage, we save those who have been in California.
Honestly, if you were going to do it, you'd have to make them tax-free.
Of course.
Otherwise, another 20 years, we were oppressed by the IRS.
There are... I mean, I was going to call them skeptics, but I think the appropriate word is just racists.
Who don't agree?
Who don't agree. Now, I just want to put myself in the category of anti-racist. I think 800,000 just isn't enough. And I think it should be every black person, not descendant of slaves. And I think that California should probably pay something between the realm of, I don't know, $5 million per black person. I think that's probably...
Have you got a shopping list?
Maybe I do. Maybe I do. But the point is, you get some racists, like actor Faison Love, who was like, no. Now, if you want to scroll down to a picture of Faison Love...
He's a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Average Kanye West fan. I'm joking. I don't know that he likes Kanye West. He probably doesn't. But he lashed out at the notion that black people in California will be given $223,000 in reparations, saying the money will only be used to purchase luxury cars. One hand, you could call him a cynical realist. On the other hand, you can call him a racist. He said, F that, that's another trick, man, because that money's going to go right back to Cadillac, right back to Mercedes-Benz. Is he wrong?
I think I don't know if it's him, but I saw a guy who looks especially like him talking about this. He was mentioning about the fact, like, black America has so much money. Like, it's not...
It's got loads, yeah.
Yeah, but they spend it hugely different to white America.
Yep.
And he just gave the statistics on, like, how much is spent on liquor per person, how much is spent on Mercedes-Benzes, how much is spent on Nike shoes. And the point obviously being that in Black America, these are status symbols. And that's what you're wasting that money on instead of building anything that builds society.
Yes.
And if you give them the money, they're
Money
probably going to spend
is a
it.
form of liquid. You can't just hold it in your hands.
They'll spend it as
Property,
they always
however,
have.
you know, if they were saying, look, every black person should be given a free house that they own, I'd be like, okay, well that makes more sense.
Still going to fail, but
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I'm not optimistic, but like, you know, it makes more sense, and it gives them a reason to be invested in their local community. As in, this is my house, I'm going to take it, you know, take care of it, blah blah blah. But no, Faisal Love is completely correct, and this. I mean, he literally says here, right? He's like, look, there are alternatives to monetary reparations, as in making black people tax exempt.
That's still okay.
No, that's actually not a terrible incentive, because for tax
Yeah,
exemption to mean anything,
I am for
you've got
lower
to get a
tax
job. You know, yeah, exactly. Anything that gets rid of taxes, I'm kind of for. You know,
I'm not. I feel a bit like I shouldn't be discriminated against in the tax code.
sure, but then we've got an argument to get rid of our taxes. Hey, they don't have to pay taxes.
Yes, but they're black.
Yeah, but I'd get out taxes.
I think our taxes would go up. Well, no, yours because you're black. So
Yeah, exactly. I'd be fine. but the point is, like, at least there's an incentive there. So look, you can work hard, you don't get taxed, and in fact, it could be a useful study in how good tax breaks actually are, right? Because like, if the black community are like, yeah, I can actually do all this, and then they start really succeeding, it's like, we're all being burdened with tax, you gits. You know, like we want that too. You know, so there are other things that make sense.
No, black people will just start running all the companies. That's how it'll work.
That's a good idea. And
But
there we go.
Exactly, but then we pay lower tax because
Yeah, but then no
he
one
owns the company. I just work for him.
exactly. Then everyone's taxes just start, and eventually we get back to that
All right, you sold me. You sold me.
pre Civil War tax codes. So anyway, and the thing is, he is right about just giving them loads of money. He is totally right about this. Give them property, don't give them loads of money, because there are so many examples of whenever anyone comes into a massive wad of cash, it destroys their life, ruins them completely. Because it turns out that to be rich and to know how to handle money requires experience. Otherwise, you get lots of people coming to you saying, give me money. I mean, loads of these people committed suicide.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, and it destroys your relationships, destroys everything you think you know, and you end up bankrupt at the end of it. And he's completely right. The money will just end up flushing into BMW and all these other rich car companies. The black community will have no ability to pay them maintenance on these expensive cars. They'll end up losing them, and they'll have less than what they started with.
Do you know the story of the English binman who won like 150 million in the lottery?
No, but that's going to be one of many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
He ended up as a binman within 2 years.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of a cruel thing to suggest, actually. But this is just the way of the world, and so yeah, good luck.
We hope you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and we all wish you a very Merry Christmas. This year, a good gift might be a £5 subscription to access all of the premium content on our website, such as Bo's interview with the leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, where he asks him all sorts of contentious questions I'm sure you'd wish to put to our potential future Prime Minister. And if you'd like to see all of the content that Bo is putting out, you can go over and follow him on Getter at BoDade. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.